Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to look at something most people encounter, and that is safely cleaning your leather. We're going to look at a few things. The first being the three sections and what they mean. Next, we'll look at natural versus faux leather and how the cleaning can vary, both on the materials themselves and how the cleaners affect them. And we're going to look at choosing the proper cleaner. That way you'll make sure that whatever you have is safe for your leather type. So with that, let's dive right in. So first, we're going to be looking at the three sections of a leather item. And each type of leather item is different. And essentially, in this context, we're talking about the leather material that makes up the item. And that can be a handbag, a wallet, a leather jacket, pretty much anything. But they're going to have primarily three sections, we'll call them. And each piece of leather may have 1, 2, or 3 sections as part of its composition. The first one is going to be the inner material. And that is going to be the core composition of the leather itself. And this could be natural leather, it could be faux leather, it could even be a plant-based leather, such as pineapple or another fruit fiber. And that makes up the core of that material. The next is the surface composition. And this could be a natural surface that has had a pattern applied to it. It could be a layer of plastic that goes on top of it, or it could even be another synthetic material that's actually on top of natural or faux leather below it. And the third is going to be our protective coating that goes on top. And so some leathers are going to have a waterproofing coating. It could be a sealant, it could be waxes, a resin, but it is essentially a more permanent and less water permeable barrier that is placed on top of the leather itself. And so these will become more important as we look a little more closely, but essentially it's these three sections that are going to make up most every piece of leather. And some are going to have 1, some are going to have 2, and some are going to have all 3. And based on what it has, you'll be able to determine what type of cleaner you're going to use and if or how that may be safe, for that type of leather. And that way you'll be in good shape right from the start. So let's take a look at a few examples of different leathers so you get an actual feel for what these are. So looking here, we've got suede, and this is essentially has one section. They're exposed fibers. We could see that on the top and the bottom. And even in our close-up view of the surface, we could see a lot of, very fibrous material. A lot of nooks, a lot of crannies. If you felt suede, you can kind of feel that in there. That's also why suede is very delicate. You have to have a proper cleaner, usually just for suede, because all those fibers are exposed. Next, we're looking at patent leather. So this type of leather actually has 2 sections. It has a natural leather underside, and on top is a plastic surface. And that's usually there to provide, that very recognizable shine and smoothness. It's very easy to polish and very easy to clean, primarily because it's plastic. And so in this case, we have that natural leather underneath, and we have that plastic surface right above it. And next, we have Saffiano leather. And this is a very popular leather for handbags. We also see it in wallets and small personal accessories. And this one has 3 sections. It's got a natural leather underside, and above that is a plastic surface. And this is similar to our patent leather in that it's got a plastic surface, where here has a very unique texture to it as well. It's kind of like an iconic, recognizable texture to the Saffiano leather. And on top of that is very often the third section is the protective coating. And so that provides a little more water resistance, maybe a little more stain resistance, and that could vary based on what coating is used. But essentially, this is that example where we see all 3. We have the natural material underneath it, a plastic surface, and then that protective coating on top of it. So, what does all of this mean, when you're trying to clean your leather? There are literally so many different leathers out there and so many different ways it's been manufactured, if there's a coating, if there's not. So here's a really simple approach you could take to essentially figure out what you've got and how safe it is to clean it. So the first thing is to ask, is there a protective coating? That's going to generally be your topmost layer, and because of that, that's going to be the first to focus on. Depending on if there is or is not, it will affect your cleaning choice, because some cleaners may actually damage that coating if they're a little too rough, or if they're mixed in a certain way that it reacts with that coating material. It could also discolor them, depending on what that reaction may or may not be. So that's the first thing. If you do have a coating, that can help guide your cleaning choice. If you know you don't have a coating, then we'll go down to the next section, and that will be the surface layer. And the question there is there a plastic surface over the leather itself, or is it natural? If it's plastic, that will affect your cleaning choice as well, because then you could choose a cleaner that is essentially safe, for that type of a surface. If it's a natural leather, you're going to want to look for something that more closely, is made for a natural leather, because that will need a different cleaning approach, different pH balance, essentially a different cleaner than a plastic, faux, vegan, any kind of leather like that. And once you determine that, if there is any plastic coating or not, if there's not, usually you're going to ask, is it a protected leather or is it unprotected? Unprotected is similar to the suede that we had talked about earlier, where the fibers are pretty much exposed. And so again, if it's unprotected, you're going to want a specific cleaner just for that. There are some leathers that have oils already mixed in them, wax is already in there, so you may use a different cleaner and or conditioner based on that. And so essentially, with these three sections, you'll be able to go one by one and relatively safely determine, what type of material you're using, what comprises that material in terms of these three sections, and then working from the top surface down, figure out what cleaner is best, for that surface and ultimately for your leather. So if you were curious about, is it safe to clean? And if you don't know, now you know.